Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime!
Hello and welcome to Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, February 19th. I'm Bobby Shoemaker, and of course that is Barry, the Sniper Spears. As always on the docket, 4 races, this week 2 at Gulfstream Park and 2 more in Arcadia, California at the Great Race Place at Santa Anita. But Barry, we're going to kick things off at Gulfstream, race 9 on the card. It's a 1-mile turf event, a $50,000 maiden special weight for 3-year-olds. It's a field of 12, and Montauk Man, the 10 horses, your 4-1 morning line favorite. But before you get started, Barry, we got a lot of big time connections, a lot of guys named Chad Brown, Todd Fletcher, and horses who have great pedigree and have bright futures ahead of them. Who do you see beating the 10 and why?
Yeah, this is, like you said, just a high caliber race,
right.
For some future turf stars here. We don't know yet, but definitely a great race to take a look at, especially in a tournament sequence, which this will probably fall into.
Right.
Now, as far as Montauk Man, that horse really ran well stretching out first time, or actually kind of second time stretching out on January 9th on the firm turf at Gulfstream. Ran a bang-up race behind Next Shares, who may be a decent horse down the road here. So didn't get beat by a slouch that day. Was 15-1. Rallied well. I'm not so fond of the post here today. Wouldn't be surprised if this horse overcomes that post and wins. But again, a horse like this, I cannot take. There's a lot of switches going on. The blinkers are coming off. New rider, a lower percentage rider. Some question marks here. So I'm going to decide to pass on Montauk Man. Now, the next horse I talk about is Turf Commander. And this horse is really interesting here. Chad Brown, obviously one of the best in the country, turf racing-wise. He's one of the best turf trainers around.
The best.
There you go. But this horse is out of Kitten's Joy. High-priced horse, I would gather, what they bought the horse for. Interesting that Jaramillo ends up here on this horse for Chad Brown. And I'm not really sure what to make of it. Not that Jaramillo is a bad rider. Right now about 16% or so. But I just thought, he had other options here, I would think.
Barry, the tough thing with doing this webcast is it seems like I'm cutting you off when I want to ask you a question, but you bring up something interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Chad Brown. We're talking about not only the best trainer to me by far on the turf. I mean, he's emerging as one of the best trainers on either surface in America. If he thought a lot of this horse, wouldn't he get somebody to come in and ride this horse? I mean, we saw Irad come in a couple of weeks ago to ride my Derby favorite, Shagaf, for one race and get back on a private jet and go back to Aqueduct the next day and freeze to death and run on, guys that are running in wild races when they should be running in claimers. But you get wide, yes. But you get my point. If he really believed in this horse, right, he would put somebody else on him because people want to ride for Chad Brown in these circumstances.
That's what I was thinking. That's precisely what I thought when I looked at this. I'm like, well, geez, what does he really make of this horse? If he's having a real nondescript kind of rider, somebody who's kind of, he wins races, but he's not, one of the top upper echelon type guys that are down at Gulfstream Park. I'm not really sure what to make of this horse. Maybe he thinks this horse might need a little time. So I decided to pass just on that alone. It really raised a red flag for me. Definitely wanted to talk about Stockyard here really quickly. Was in that Next Shares race with the 10-horse Montauk Man, which ends up being a key race. There's some winners that came out of that race. This horse lost all chance at the break. Hopefully, for Pletcher, that doesn't happen again. I'm thinking this horse is going to take a beating and probably be a favorite, somewhere around 2-1, 5-2-ish. rather than the 10 actually being the favorite. Because it is Pletcher, it is Rosario. Todd's numbers are through the roof in every category that this horse is coming out of. Second start period, sprint to route, 31 to 60 days, he's over 25% in each category. This horse looks like he should win, and it's one of those things, looks too good to be true for me. So I actually ended up on quite a price here, a Super Stan. Another horse that got roughed up early in his first start also. Eddie Plisa has humongous numbers with this kind of second start horse. Not so much sprint to route, but he still has comparable numbers second time out. This horse projects to have a great second outing. He's trained forwardly since that last start. I think the price will be there, and he's definitely worth a shot in a pretty wide open race as far as I can see.
Well, Barry, you kind of took the rug out from under me here. I looked at this race and didn't like it, and I don't like the Gulfstream Park card at all on Saturday. I think they should be ashamed of themselves to put together a card like that on Saturdays. But nevertheless, I just think Stockyard's much the horse to beat. And for much of what you talked about, I mean, Pletcher is the best trainer in the country, whether we like him or not. Facts are facts. And yes, he loses Castellano, but he gains Joel Rosario, and this horse was eliminated from the start. I watched the race twice. Probably is going to win that day, to be honest. But Castellano, being the best jockey in the country, saw this horse had no chance after going 4 wide, once losing all momentum to start to begin with, and just, I wouldn't call it wrapped him up, but understood that this horse was going to live to fight another day. 5-1 morning line is, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, if that horse is 5-1, I'm going to bet a lot of money on that horse. This horse was a $250,000 purchase at Keeneland, November 2013, and immediately sent to Todd Pletcher's barn once this horse was old enough to start training. Clearly, they're not playing around with this horse. He's going to be forwardly placed. I mean, it's everything you want from Pletcher, Barry. I hate to repeat it, but it's my turn. I mean, 7.5 furlongs to a mile. Second start. Workouts are 7 days apart, 8 days apart. I mean, it's vintage Todd Pletcher. My thing is this week, I won the 10K on Monday because of Todd Pletcher going off at 8-1 on the turf. I mean, 8-1 on the turf I've got on Monday. If people want to give me that, I'll take it. And if you want to give me 5-1 on Joel Rosario, Todd Pletcher, stretching out, second time start, I'll take it. Nevertheless, I think you're right, though. 2-1, 5-2, Stockyard, much the horse to beat. He'll win the race.
All right.
So we'll move on to race 10 on the card at Gulfstream Park. It's a 1 mile turf event, $16,000 claimer, 4-year-olds and up. Barry, a field of 12, the 9-horse Lasso is your 7-2 morning line favorite. Timeform US says it's going to be a hot pace. It looks to me that the 9 is the speed of the speed. How do you see this one playing out and why?
I agree with you a little bit here with the 9 being the speed of the speed. My notes here has the first heading, speed, Lasso. Definitely going to be there. I think the pace is going to be hot. I do agree there. Navarro on the drop, definitely a good angle. The horse was eased last time after a bump at the start. Not sure what happened here or there that day. Has trained forwardly and actually put in a nice bullet on the 13th. I don't know. I think just the pace of this race is going to be too hot for anybody up front. So I'm not expecting any of the front runners to survive. There's some horses outside, some horses inside that want to go. Tiger Bourbon's going to be out on the lead, possibly the 12, Nietzsche. There's quite a few horses that are going to scramble out for this lead, and I'm not convinced that they're going to be around at the finish. The next horse I kind of looked at was Lay It Down, Jason Service. Now, this horse ran well at this level last time out. Probably should have won that race. Just lost by a head. I looked at the race a couple of times, and the horse got bumped a little bit at the beginning of the race. Made a great run and just missed, basically at 8-1. Now, the trainer has great numbers off of these similar layoffs. about 20% or so. Definitely in good hands. But if you look at this horse's past performances, off the layoff, the horse fires pretty good. And then the second time out regresses quite a bit. And that was a little bit of a negative here for me, and that's why I went elsewhere. But, again, a horse like this has every right to win a race like this, but, not for my money and not on Saturday. So I ended up on the 5 horse, Starship Zorro, who's coming in off a layoff for David Casson. He's run with a lot better horses than what he's seeing on Saturday. If you've seen his past performances back on September 27th, he got beat by Lochte about 7 lengths. Old Time Hockey was another horse that beat him in Gulfstream in November. So this horse has been keeping pretty good company here, better than what he's seeing on Saturday. I think he's been training pretty well steadily for this comeback, and I think he's going to get that nice pace scenario where he's going to get a lot of pace to run at up front, and I think he runs him down the lane in the end.
I tell you, Barry, I almost pulled the trigger on the 5, and for the same reasons you just mentioned, I've been running against much better. Much better. I reluctantly landed on the favorite here, and my reasoning is this. When you're running at this level, a lot of times these horses just don't want to pass each other. And I see that a lot. And the more this turf course firms up, the harder it is to pass, especially at this level. And I looked at the 9's race on video last race. He was outclassed. He had trouble at the start, went really fast for this horse's caliber, and it was just eased. And the Mack Carruthers eased angle, if you will.
Yeah.
If this horse runs back to 2 starts ago, he wins this race. Period. End of discussion. Navarro is as hot as fire and has been since this meet began. I just think the 9 gets out front and goes wire to wire. And again, this is one of these situations where I'm talking to you on Friday. It's a tepid selection. I'm really going to make my decision depending on where I'm at in the tournament at the time. But when we're talking about this best horse in the field, pace scenario, I just think he goes out front and wires a cheap field. Now, if he does get beat, I think it's your 5. And I would love to play the 5-9, 5-9 all angle. But the problem is the 9's probably going to be favorite. And the 5's going to be bet down because of everything you said. So it's not a race I'm going to bet at the window. And I'll probably land on the 9. But again, I don't have a very strong opinion. I'm just looking for a horse that's going to be forwardly placed in a bunch of horses that, to me, they don't look like they want to pass each other.
Yeah, you might be right, and it definitely has that. That's a scenario that could play out. They run this race 10 times. That's a scenario that could play out half the time.
Right.
So it's definitely a good possibility. I did look at the Pesh Chat a little bit because the 5 and the 6, the 5 Starship Zorro and the Pesh Chat, the 6, they kind of have similar type styles.
Right.
6 is coming in off the claim for with big numbers for Michael Petro. Wouldn't be surprised if that one runs. But, again, it's going to be tough because this race on paper, it's tough to figure out who's going to be what price.
Right.
Because there's actually a scenario where the 6, the 5, even the 3 could end up being the favorite in this race rather than the 9. And if the 9 goes off at an overlay price, that might be a great play. And
that's where you really find yourself in a tough spot when you're recording this 24 hours in advance, because in a race like this, Barry and I are really probably going to play a horse on price, not necessarily the horse we like, because, again, when you're talking about 16K claimers, Barry, and you can kind of piggyback off what I'm saying, you really need to play value and not necessarily the horse that you think is best, because when you're talking about this level, what is best?
Exactly. Nothing, because you see these races run every day of the week, and you see big prices come in, some wacky things happen. You never know. And it's definitely something to keep in the back of your mind, especially in a tournament situation where, you might want to be able to find, a good 5-6 to 1 shot, maybe even higher, that could move you up the leaderboard or even keep you atop the leaderboard.
Pace in a race like this, in levels like this, really mean everything. because we see this at Turfway Park a lot. You don't necessarily see it at Delta as much. When you've got two horses that may necessarily look like the best horses on paper, and they go out there and they speed duel to 47 and change, they're not going to hold that. And something that's going to plot home, that's in a good spot at the time, whether he's 12 to 1, 24 to 1, whether he's lost his last 3 races by 8.5 lengths. So it really is going to depend on how the pace scenario plays out. And we're going over this a lot, guys, because this is a key race. I mean, this is one of the races in the 20K on Derby Wars. This is a big-time race that really, if the chalk doesn't come home, could change the outcome or set the tone going into Santa Anita.
Absolutely. I mean, this could be the hinge on the tournament. I mean, you could get your tournament breaker in this particular race. Depending on who you land on.
Right.
And if that horse wins and he's 10 to 1, that could make your whole tournament right there.
Yeah, and then if you read Santa Anita as being quote-unquote chalky, then you could kind of play that way. And then if you don't get it right, then you're kind of, I wouldn't say reaching, but you're getting out of your comfort zone.
Right. You'd have to regroup at that point and reevaluate the rest of the tournament from there.
So we'll move on to the Great Race Place and a track, Barry, that I have. I wasn't fond of this place for quite some time, but since January 1, my friend, and you can speak to this, I have been outstanding at this place. So hopefully this trend continues. Santa Anita Race 6, we're going down the hill, an allowance optional claimer, 4-year-olds and up, a $60,000 purse, a field of 11. Your morning line favorite is the 8, Day Treville, maybe, 5-2 morning line. How do you see this one playing out, Barry?
This is a very, very good race. I mean, one of the better races I've seen down the hill in a while.
Would you agree that this is probably one of the better cards in America on Saturday, especially the back end?
Absolutely. The late pick 4 there is going to be great. The pick 6 is definitely going to attract a lot of attention, and there's some high-quality races. This one and the next one that we're going to do are definitely highlights in that sequence. I mean, at least as far as the 8 goes, Day Treville, not really sure what this horse is going to do. I mean, I don't like question marks as the favorite. That's one thing I avoid. I see in the past performances here in France that this horse has gone to the lead before, kind of likes to be forwardly placed, it seems. And I'm not sure how that's going to play out from the 8-hole and with the new, surroundings, everything. Right. It's something that I don't like unless this horse is a complete standout, which he could be. He's running in Group 3s in France, running competitively, just missing. Ended up hitting one ungraded stake, but very close in a couple of Group 3s. So, this horse has every right to win, just not with my money at a short price. I can definitely, even in a tournament situation, if this horse wins, unless it's the last race of the tournament, I can definitely, take a pass there.
Right.
Now, Mr. Sexy is a really interesting horse here. Definitely is another one that I have noted. Speed, speed, speed. Now, this horse is really bold when it gets the lead and gets clear. The 2 times in the last 2 races that this horse got clear by a length or 2, definitely finished the race off. Nobody could catch him. But the times before that, when that horse got headed or really in a battle, ended up folding like a lawn chair. And the horse ended up 4th, 5th, out of the money, even 10th one time when opposing lead, yet at a little bit of higher class, but still, has some questions about, being a little faint-hearted as far as, when he's in a fight. So I'm going to pass there. The horse I almost ended up on was Fueled by Bourbon. I think this horse rates a great chance. Peter Miller's going great at this point. The horse fired a bullet on February 13th for this race on Saturday. 31 to 60 days, Peter Miller's 17%, which is definitely pretty good on, above average scale. Should get a nice little pace scenario here, but I don't know. It just didn't seem like the right time for this horse to win. So that's where I ended up on County Lyman, who I thought was a really interesting horse at a price. 12 to 1 morning line. His post is probably the reason why he's getting that high morning line price. But I think this horse rates a great chance, getting some class relief. In 2 restricted races, the last 2 restricted stakes races, the last 2 times out. Anything close to this level, this horse has been absolutely stellar. The numbers fit, the pace scenario fits. Just have to get Quinones to work out a trip, and I think this horse is sitting on a big race on Saturday.
I've watched a lot of down the hill turf events this year, Barry, and the outside absolutely has benefited this year. I mean, there's no question about it. And I can point back to Monday when I'm on the 8 horse that solidified the 10K win. I'm going to get beat by the 4 if he has any room to run. And he didn't, because he got boxed inside. The 8 was wider on the racetrack, had clear room. Tyler Bays with a great ride. The rest is history. But when you're on the inside, if you don't get to the lead, and then 9 times out of 10, when you're running 6.5 furlongs, you got speed with you. So you're compromising yourself early. So it takes the perfect trip on the inside to really get it done. And to be honest, Barry, that's what I'm hoping for here. I ended up landing on the 3 Stormy Liberal at 5-1. I mean, Doug O'Neill teaming up with his main rider, Mario Gutierrez. You can never go wrong there. First race since November 22nd was January 14th. I thought he ran very well. I mean, he was 2.5 lengths off the lead a majority of the race. Flattened out late. I think it was because he needed a conditioner. Got a 1:13 time form U.S. speed figure. I like the fact he was stalking. I have seen many horses that if, with a good rider, if they're able to have that clock in their head and make the run, once they get over that little dirt patch, turning for home,
turn it up.
To get the head start on the closers, they certainly have an advantage. He's back in 37 days. I expect a much better effort this time. He's proven over this turf course specifically, which is important, and that's where I wanted to go with you on this segment. Down the hill at Santa Anita is unlike any other place in the country. You have horses that are successful at Del Mar going 6.5, or Belmont going 6.5, and they change barns. They end up at Santa Anita. They go down the hill, and they're worthless. You got horses that easier make the transition from 1 1/16 or 1 1/8 to the 6.5. For some reason, down the hill is different. And when I looked at the video today of the 3 going down the hill, past the eye test, past the numbers test, I'll take Doug O'Neill all day. That's proven he's not only a good trainer in California, he's a good trainer in the country, and he's got his guy second off of a long layoff, forwardly placed. Give me 5-1. I'll take the 3, Stormy Liberal.
Absolutely. This is right in Doug O'Neill's wheelhouse. And I did notice in the past performances, on January 14th, Gutierrez ran or rode him, brought him off the pace.
Right.
If you look back on, he rode him on October 15th. Same trip, just didn't win that day either, but got the same exact trip. And the other times on this horse looked like he was going to lead every time.
Right.
Every time. And I think something with Mario or his hands, whatever it is, he can get this horse to relax and make a nice run. So I wouldn't expect a subpar effort. I think this horse is sitting on a good race also.
But for the record, I mean, if there's a longer shot on the board, I mean, you're on the right horse. I like where your mind's at. It's certainly tournament play. I'm just locked in right now thinking I'm going to be in position late, and I'm going to try to win this thing with the 3 and get myself in the first place. And then, we'll see what happens after that. But if you're thinking long shot, Barry, there's no question. I just think Doug O'Neill's going so well right now, and this horse has showed how good he can be over this turf course, and I know he's going to be forwardly placed. I think he'll be in the lead at the 16th pole. Can somebody beat him?
Yeah, that's what this game's about, running them down late.
Right. So we'll stay at Santa Anita, as I mentioned earlier, race 8. 1 mile turf event, grade 2 stakes, 4-year-olds and up, $200,000 purse, field of 12, morning line favorite, Stormy Lucy, the 10 horse at 7-2.
Yeah, Stormy Lucy has been tough. The last 3 outings, this horse has been absolutely stellar. Won by a head, missed by a neck, missed by a nose. Just a different horse in the last 3 starts. Didn't draw so great in this race, but the horse tends to like the outside a little bit. I definitely argue that fact that the horse kind of likes it on the outside a little. So it's not too much of a bad thing. The one negative is the horse does tend to break slow and has a lot of work to do. He's been working out trips lately, but again, that's always, at least in my mind, not a great proposition to bet a closer like that in a race like this. If she can get it done at a low price, so be it. I'll move on. Now the next horse, Carrie Bell, another one that ran a great race and actually beat Stormy Lucy last time out. I was skeptical of that horse that day. Won at a big price at 12-1 and ran an excellent race off the bench on a good turf at Santa Anita, obviously. I'm still not convinced this horse is a grade 2 animal. And the thing is, I want this horse to prove it to me, especially from the one hole. I'm not really convinced that that's the best place to be, pretty much anywhere, but especially at Santa Anita on the turf. It's really hard to work out a trip, especially the way this horse runs. They may have to try to jump the shark a little bit and go to the lead and try to get forwardly placed in position, and I don't really think that that's this horse's best game. So I'm willing to bet against on Saturday, which ends up where I go is the 9, Her Eminency. I think this horse is a top-class animal. A friend of mine, Jason Perry, he put me on this horse last summer and was like, Barry, this horse is absolutely stellar. And he's been absolutely right. The only clunker the horse put in was in the San Clemente at Del Mar on a good turf. I don't think the horse liked the footing that day. If I get 6-1, I'm going in with 2 fists. But I don't think I'm going to get 6-1. I think it's going to be more 3-4-1. But still, in a contest situation, that 3-4-1 could end up jumping you a place or two, especially when the game is tight. On top of that, I just think this horse is definitely a standout here, and I think Her Eminency wins.
Barry Spears on the 9, Her Eminency. Bobby Shoemaker on the 9, Her Eminency. I mean, this is twice you've stole my segment, so I'm going to have to start going first. I mean, seriously.
Right.
3 starts in 2015, 2 of which, I'm going to read my notes, Barry, okay?
Yes, sir.
Just to let everybody know that I wrote this hours ago before Barry stole my show here. 2 of which were outstanding. The only poor performance was on a good turf course. 33-day layoff is exactly what this horse needs. Will set a perfect trip, second shelf behind the speed, turn of foot, best in this field. Can't go wrong with Joe Talamo. And then I put 6-1 and starred it twice and circled it. I mean, this is by far, this horse, how is this horse 6-1? I mean, perfect trip. We'll set a stalking trip. You can't go wrong with Joe, as I said. I mean, maybe he's 6-1 or she's 6-1 because of the layoff, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think this horse is so far superior than everything else in this field. It's not going to matter. If you go back to October 10th, I mean, ships from Del Mar to Keeneland off of a long layoff and not only beats the horses this horse beats, Barry, but to run the numbers it ran and then shook clear, drifted out, and dug in to beat Miss Temple City, who you've talked about on this show before.
Absolutely.
How is this horse? I can't even say it without laughing. How is this horse 6-1 and Stormy Lucy is 7-2? It's beyond me. And this is another one of these where you've heard me say it before. I hope nobody watches because I want to bet this horse at 6-1.
Absolutely. I mean, if we get anywhere close to that 6-1, like I said, I'm going in with both fists. But it might be a closer board than we realize. I mean, Prize Exhibit is a very top class horse as well. That should take a lot of action. Even Carrie Bell. I think they're all going to be kind of close in the wagering.
I think the only horse that comes close to our horse is Prize Exhibit. Look, man, you trust my numbers and my equations here. I'm looking at them. The only horse that comes close is Prize Exhibit, and Prize Exhibit is probably not going to set as good of a trip.
No.
I mean, the 9 is going to win this race.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. Again, just kind of doing the Hope nobody watches dance and
Right.
we get a 6-1 shot.
So, I mean, I guess there you have it for me. I mean, my top selection is in race 8 at the Great Race Place. 9, Her Eminency at 6-1, and please give me 6-1.
Yeah, my top play for the week is Starship Zorro, race 10, Gulfstream Park. It's a go.
Well, there you have it for Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, February 19th. Again, I'm Bobby Shoemaker, and that's Barry the Sniper Spears. And as always, and until next time, good luck.